Hi everyone, this is Becky from My Creative Life. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of collage here using some magazine cutouts, and these are magazine pages here I'm going through right now from National Geographic, some home decor magazines, and I just flip through these and pull out the pages with images that I think will go well on an art journal layout. So I picked out the one you see on the left there with all of the green and yellow and that beautiful butterfly. That's gonna be what my entire page will be based around, all of the colors. And here I'm pulling out my distress oxides right now that will go together with that image. I also grabbed a magazine cutout of a stool that my girl is going to be sitting on, and now I'm going to choose the girl parts of her from these collage sheets from Dylusions. So I'm choosing here the bottom part of her, which would be her legs and where she's going to be sitting on that stool. Right now I am picking out her body, which is a bit unusual. It's this little swirly design here, and there are words going around the top of it, but I'm just going to remove the words. I do not need the words. I'm just going to use it as her body. And next up, I am going to choose her head as well. Now on the head that I chose, there was a shoe as a hat. I did not want the shoes, so I will remove that and just keep only her head. So now I'm going to begin working on my background before I add my images. And I'm using several different shades of greens and yellows here. And I'm just going to blend them all together using my blending tool there. So I am starting with the lightest of each of the colors, and then I'll add the darker ones afterwards. Now here I went in with the lighter yellow toned, and I will go ahead and add the ink choices that I use down in my description box. So there I am going in now with what I believe is fossilized amber. The one before might have been mustard seed, and I'm just going to build on top of the first layer that I added in. And next I will go to my greens, I believe. I'm using the same blending tool. It really does not mess up your ink pads if you go ahead and use the same. If it mixes a little bit on the top, you can wipe it off if you like, but eventually after adding more and more green, it removes any yellow that might have gotten on there. But you can see here I'm just blending the yellow and the green together to create my background based on the colors of that magazine image that I cut out. And adding in different shades of the same color just adds a little bit more depth to your background and a little bit more interest than if you was just to use one shade of each color on there. So I'm just going to continue adding in my greens now, and then I go in with a hint of a dark brown, which is, it has a red tone to it. I believe it might be mahogany something. I am not sure of the exact name of that color, but I know mahogany is in the name of that ink pad. And I just add a touch of it here and there, and that pulls in the butterfly that's on that magazine cutout. If you look at the butterfly, there's a little bit of that reddish brown on there also. So you can see here, once I added in this mahogany color, it definitely brightened up the other colors and sort of brought the page alive. I love what this added to my background. Now you'll see on the left page, there's an empty spot there, but that's where my image would be. So I just did not add any color there in that area. So now I'm gonna go ahead and adhere my collage pieces to my background, and I'm using a matte gel medium. This looks glossy right now, but it definitely dries matte. And I am going to add in my stool that is also from a magazine. And I cut out two other images from magazine pages as well. And there are two flowers. Now both of them actually have a little touch of that deep red as well. So it sort of ties in all the way around. These images all tie in together. So here I'm adding in my girl. You can see I am piecing her together right now. Once I add her head and I push it up a little bit to the top there, I do need to add a neck to her. I did not like how she looked once she was just sitting on her body without a neck. So I'm going to add in a neck later on. So you can see all of these pieces right now, they are just sitting on the background. They are not part of the background. So I'll go ahead and show you guys how I blend my collage pieces and my background together. So I'm going to begin first of all by adding in some gesso around each one of these images. And that just gives me an area where I can blend some color connecting the background and the collage pieces together. So after adding in my gesso, I gave it a quick dry with my heat tool, making sure it was completely dry because I do not want to add color onto a wet surface, especially these Distress Oxide inks here. So I'm going to go ahead right now, use the same colors I used before on my background and blend in all around each one of these images. And you may notice my girl does not have any arms yet, but that's coming up really soon. So now please keep in mind when you're looking at the layout, the top part of the left page, the light is shining directly on it. So obviously you're gonna see that glare, and that may make it seem like there's some sort of separation with the image and the background. But once you see the still shots in the end, you'll see that actually is blended in really nicely to my background, and it's not that separated as it's looking with the glare right directly on it. So now I blended in the colors connecting my images to the background. I am going to add in a few distractions now, and doing that with a stencil and a moist baby wipes. You can see I'm just wiping away at my distress inks in the background and adding in those images from that stencil. That is a Dylusion stencil. And I am using hickory smoke with my blending tool, using the same part of the stencil, and I am going in directly next to a lot of the images that I wiped away a few moments ago and stenciling in the image right next to it. And this just sort of adds a little bit of distraction, so you do not notice a lot of where the image connects to the background. And I'm also adding stenciling directly on those seams. So here I'm going in with a darker color now. I'm using black soot. I'm using another part of the stencil here, the same stencil, this diamond shaped, and I'm adding in a few more details. And I am loving how this background is coming together. So next up, I am gonna do a little bit of stamping, which sort of add a detail that's gonna connect the entire 2 pages together. So I'm gonna pull out one of my favorite stamps. It is a rubber stamp with my black archival ink pad. And because of the design on the stamp, all of those vines, it's very, very easy to layer up this stamp and get the look that you're going for, whether it's a very, very light stamping or you want a heavy layered look. So I'm going to go ahead and add some of this stamping all around my layout. So now I'm going to go ahead and darken up the edges of my entire layout, and I'm using my Faber-Castell big brush marker here, and I'm just adding it directly to the page. You do have to move really quickly with this because it dries quickly. So I'm adding it just in small areas at a time, and I am adding it to the page. I am using my fingers that's moistened just a little with a moist baby wipes and smearing it all around and getting my edges darkened up that way. So now I am adding a neck to my girl, and it looks a little bit bold right now, but once it dries, it fades out a little and blends in nicely with the rest of her. And I'm using my Stabilo Black charcoal pencil here just to add a little bit of shading around my girl and other images on the layout here. So here I pulled out one of my masks from Dylusions, and I'm going to use it just to give me a shape for her arm. I used one of my pens there just to outline the mask, the arm part of it, and I just flipped it here. I'm going to use the arm on the other side as well, and that one is going to lay on the front of her body, sort of resting on her leg. So once I have the outline there, I will go in with my black marker, that is a Faber-Castell marker, and fill in her arm and her hands there. So now I am gonna go ahead and outline my girl, and I use my marker. I also use my fingers just to smear it a tiny bit so I don't have a lot of harsh lines and harsh outlines, and that helps actually blend it into the background a lot more. So you can see there, I filled out the rest of her hair using my black big brush marker, and I am waiting for it to dry to continue adding those white dots on there. You can see I added it to the lower part of her hairline, and once that dry, I'll add it to the top as well. So here I'm using my white gel pen to add a few details and bring in some white on her legs, and I will do the same with her arms. I also added some of that white detail on the front of her shirt. Now I will bring in a little bit more of the white detail to the flowers, and then I'll add some splatters. Now for my splatters, I will use some white acrylic ink. I absolutely love using inks as splatters because it does not absorb any of the colors on the background. Any of the paints or ink pads that you use, it's not going to absorb it. So for most of my splatters, I do use acrylic inks. Now I'm going to work on my title, and you can see I'm stamping it in using these very thin alphabet stamps. These are from, I believe, Waffle Flower. I will link it down in the description box, but I am not really good at hand lettering. That's something that's on my list of things to learn how to do. But for now, instead of hand lettering, I usually use stamps. I have a lot of different style stamps in my stash, and I use them mostly just to get an outline of the different fonts. Then I will go in with my markers and outline them again so they'll be really dark and standing out on my layout, because you can see here with just stamping it out with my black ink there, it's not standing out as much as I wanted to. Now before I outline it, I am gonna go in and add just some finishing touches, some finishing details here using that vine stamp, and basically filling in any empty spaces I think that needs just an extra little something. I'm also going to add in a little bit more of this deep red mahogany ink here in areas I think that it needs it as well. Once I have that done, I went in here with my Posca paint pen and a very fine tip, and I'll go ahead and darken up all of those alphas, outline them, and that way they're standing out. And my title says, "Let your ideas bloom." Now once I'm done adding in my lettering here, once I'm done darkening up all my letters, I should say, I will go in with a little bit more splatters because I felt like some areas needed a little bit more of those white splatters. Now here we have a close-up look at the completed layout. I really enjoyed doing this one, and I hope you guys enjoy the process as well. If you did, don't forget, give me a thumbs up before you leave. Check out my channel if you like what you see. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button today and also the notification bell. And that way you'll always know when I upload new videos. I also post my projects on Instagram, and that link will be in the description box along with all of the items I used today on this layout. So I want to thank you all for watching today, and until my next video, bye.